Was Eliminator a lie? Today, we're going to dive into the truth behind the controversy and talk about who really played on the album, how much of it was computer programmed, and whether or not ZZ Top's biggest hit was actually a Billy Gibbons solo project with drum machines. Let's start with the elephant in the room. A lot of fans assume that Dusty Hill played bass on the record, Frank Beard played drums, Billy Gibbons played guitar. You know, ZZ Top, the classic lineup. But over the years, insiders have told a very different story, and we now know that much of the bass was programmed or played on a synthesizer. Many, if not all, of the drum tracks were actually drum machines or sequenced loops. Billy Gibbons recorded layer after layer of guitars, quite often alone in the studio. Dusty Hill and Frank Beard's involvement was far smaller than fans believed. And if you're thinking, so was this even a ZZ Top record? You're not alone. Now, enter a very important person here. His name is Lyndon Hudson, the most important ZZ Top collaborator you've probably never heard of. Hudson was an engineer, a songwriter, and a musical architect, and honestly, he is the secret ingredient behind the Eliminator sound. He spent a year with Billy Gibbons experimenting with drum machines, sequencers, new tempos, song structures, and early synth bass patches. And this wasn't a casual collaboration, it was a full-blown pre-production for the album. And when the time came to record Eliminator, the foundation of that pre-production work became the actual album. Hudson later sued for writing contributions on one track and won a major settlement. His influence was far deeper than one song. He actually helped create the blueprint for the entire album and the entire change in ZZ Top's sound. So here's the twist. Everything we think of as classic ZZ Top, the girls, the car, the shiny suits, the synchronized beards, all of it came packaged with this new sound, and this allowed ZZ Top to be embraced by MTV, and they had huge hits like Gimme All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man, and Legs. And they weren't just hits, they were MTV staples. They were instantly recognizable, and they were a huge part of early 80s culture. And all of this came from that studio experimentation, not from a three-piece Texas bar band. So for decades, ZZ Top avoided talking about who actually played what on the Eliminator album. They let the myth of the trio stand, and honestly, this was very smart marketing. But later on, Dusty Hill himself acknowledged that he didn't play on most of the tracks, that Frank Beard's drums were heavily replaced by electronic drums, and that while the band supported Billy's experiment, they weren't hands-on with it. It was basically Billy Gibbons in the studio, and they rode that wave straight to superstardom. So yes, things were programmed, and yes, the trio's roles were blurred, but nobody was forced out, and all three of them were on the same page with Billy's vision, even if it meant that two out of the three of them might not be involved directly in the studio. So was Eliminator a lie? Here's the truth. The album was marketed as a classic trio performance, and it isn't, and it wasn't. The band didn't reveal who actually played on the record. Lyndon Hudson never got public credit for his contributions. And the ZZ Top sound was massively reinvented this way behind the scene. But calling it a lie is an oversimplification. Like many great albums, Eliminator wasn't made by a democracy. It was made by a vision. Billy Gibbons' vision, supported by studio technology and a secret collaborator and two bandmates who trusted his vision, but it was his experiment, it was his idea. And here's the part that often gets lost in all of this controversy. Sound shift worked spectacularly. And it worked because rock was moving toward precision and electronics. MTV needed clean, bright, punchy production. ZZ Top's loose bar band energy was going to fail on early 80s radio, but Billy Gibbons' new approach created a hybrid that no one else had, Texas blues over hypnotic, almost robotic electronic rhythms. This was fresh, dangerous, and cool. And most importantly, it still sounded like ZZ Top, just upgraded. Whether or not Dusty and Frank played on every track, they owned the live performances. They embodied the image. They became the faces of the sound they helped to introduce to the world. So no, Eliminator wasn't exactly the album that people thought it was, but it was something even more interesting. A bold experiment that redefined a band, reshaped rock radio, and created some of the most unforgettable music videos of the decade. Sometimes the truth behind an album isn't clean, but in this case, it's part of what made Eliminator a masterpiece. And while Lyndon never received the credit that he deserved, his contributions live on in the enduring popularity of the album. So what do you think? Do you believe that the true history of Eliminator changes the way that you view the album? Or do you think that, like many classic albums, Eliminator's colorful history simply makes it a more mythic achievement? Let me know what you think.
MusicGuru here, asking you to help us on our march to 10,000 subscribers.